everyone, my name is Thomas, and today in this video we're going to be going over the UI in Adobe Illustrator. In the previous video we've got our document set up. Right here I have a letter document, and over on the left side we have our toolbar. If you've worked with Photoshop, this is going to be a very similar experience, like I said in the last video. But you have some different tools here that we're going to be using. So on the left is some toolbars. Some of the more important tools that we'll go over in future videos are the selection tool, the direct selection tool, the pen tool, shape tools, and the various ones in them, the text tool, and some of the ones within that category. The eraser tool, the gradient tool, and these color selection panels right here. Over on the top, we have our toolbar, our second toolbar. This is more about the document. So here we have your typical file, save as. With Illustrator, you'll save as if you click save on your computer, it saves as an AI document, a .ai document. That's Adobe Illustrator's default file type, but you can also save as a PDF or one of the other file formats. You can even save as an SVG file. So we'll click cancel, but nothing much here, nothing much different here than within any other program. Over here we have edit. In Adobe Illustrator, the edit tab is not as important as it is in Adobe Photoshop. You'll be spending a lot less time here. However, in the object panel right next to it, this is where you'll be modifying your shapes. You'll be spending a lot of time going through the menus here, especially down here with the path and shape tabs. These are very important. Type deals with text. Select does your selection. Effect, these are kind of like the effect galleries or the filter galleries from the Photoshop tutorials. Again, your view allows you to zoom in, zoom out. Presentation mode basically puts you in a mode where your screen is only filled with your document, your artwork. You can press escape to get out of that, and to go back into presentation mode you'll hit F twice. Window, this is exactly how it is in Adobe Photoshop. These will just bring up the little property windows that you can use. In this case I'll bring up the navigator, and it's nearly the same as it is in Photoshop. You don't have the slider, but you do still have the forward and back, as well as being able to drag around the scene. We'll exit that out. Over on the right, you have your layers panel, and layers work slightly differently to Adobe Photoshop, and we'll go over that in a later video. But the general basis is that there's main layers and then there's sub layers. And the way Adobe Illustrator works is that the layers work similarly to Adobe Photoshop in the sense that the higher that you are on the stack, the more in front on the document you will be. So if I draw a few shapes, and we'll color them different colors. One that's red. We'll have one that's blue. Oh, whoops. Deselect. Go to a different layer. Let's make this one red. And then if I go to a different layer, make one that's, I don't know, green. You'll see that the green square is on the bottom, the red square is in the middle, and the blue square is on the top. So if I start moving these around, you'll see that the red layer goes above the green square. You can see that the green square, if you follow the blue outline, that's where the green square is. So the red will go on top of that, but it's below the blue layer, or the blue square, so you'll see that the blue square goes on top. And of course the blue square goes over the green square. But the way Adobe Illustrator does something different is that it uses sublayers. The general idea is that when you're working with Adobe Illustrator, these main layers function more as groups, and the sub-layers function more like the regular layers that you're used to in Photoshop. However, those sublayers can also be considered groups. So when you have multiple sublayers, you start drawing. So here I have 3 layers within this group. We'll call this the group. And what I can do is I can go over to the right side here in this kind of empty space over to the right of the circle and click there. And you'll see that the darker blue, the gray, and the aqua color square have all been selected. Now they function as one. And if I do that again, I can drag all of them together. So these function as like a group. Each one has its own layer, but because they're in this main layer, they're within this group, and they can be easily selected together. This works great if you have logos. You can create essentially a group for all the elements of a logo, to put a logo together, and easily select that and drag that between documents or between projects. So an important question to ask is, why Adobe Illustrator? What is the point of Adobe Illustrator? Well, the big answer to that is vector graphics. Within the Adobe line, Adobe Illustrator offers you an easy way to create and modify vector graphics and share those within other Adobe apps to be used within other projects. An application like Adobe Photoshop can work with vector graphics, but it does not create vector graphics. It creates raster graphics instead. Also, in Photoshop, you cannot edit the shapes that you create, other than simple modifications such as transformation, scaling, and rotation. And with that, that's the end of the video. In the next video, we'll be talking about the selection tools as well as some of the creation tools to get you started creating shapes. Until then, I'll see you later. You have a good one.